Hello everyone, Kolonji Murray with TaxAssurances. Just wanted to do a helpful video around the documents that are needed in order to prepare an accurate tax return. So obviously during the tax season and sometimes during the course of the rest of the year, I go through the process of helping individual tax preparers prepare their taxes. And obviously the first thing that they're going to ask me is, well, what do you need? And one of the things that I've done is I've put together a checklist of the different items that I need in terms of the preparation process. I put it on my website, but what I'll do is I'll kind of go through what the different forms are and why they're needed, and then kind of help you kind of get an understanding there of why the documents are needed. So first and foremost, driver's license. Then we need, and I don't usually need to get the actual Social Security card, but the driver's license I definitely want to get a copy of, because I'm going to need to enter the driver's license ID number, the issue date, the expiration date, and that type, and also the birthday. So the birthday is actually going to be another thing that's on the driver's license that I can use in terms of the tax preparation process. And then, obviously, if there are family members, I'm going to need their information as well. So if there's a spouse, if there are children, I'll need that information in order to prepare the return. And then from there, we're looking at kind of the basic income information. So that usually for most people involves the W-2 form. For people that are in the gig economy or independent contractor, small business space, those are the individuals that are going to get 1099s at the end of the year. So from there, I would use that information to prepare the return. So it's important that I get that information. It's important that you, as a taxpayer, you get that information so that an accurate tax return can be prepared. And then obviously, if you are retired, if you're getting like a pension, if it's a situation where you're getting like Social Security, you've got your regular 9-to-5 job that's maybe part-time after you've retired, you're going to get what are called 1099-Rs, 1099 SSAs for Social Security income. So I'll need that income information in order to accurately report that on the tax return as well. If you're getting any sort of alimony or anything like that, something that a lot of people do forget, but it is required. If you have won any gambling winnings, I definitely am going to need information that reflects how much you won in terms of gambling, especially if you've gone to a major casino or a gaming location and you've won and you've kind of quote unquote cashed your chips in, and they gave you a document showing how much you made for those winnings. That information is not just given to you, but it's given to the state and to the IRS. So you want to make sure that you provide that information as well when it comes to the tax preparation process. Also, if you are a homeowner, so what I would need is the mortgage information. I would need the property tax information. In many cases, if it involves real estate that is rental property, I would need the insurance information. So that's all going to be on the year-end statement that your mortgage company is going to be able to provide to you, and I can use that. When it comes to investments, we're looking at statements that reflect how much interest income you received, how much you received from a brokerage firm in terms of dividend income, also any capital gains or losses, any brokerage accounts, during the year that you had any activity, and definitely want to get that, because again, it's income information and activity that has already been reported to the IRS and to the state, so you want to make sure that's reflected on your return. Let's see what else we got here. If you own the home outright, you don't have a mortgage, then I would definitely need to get a summary of what you paid to your municipality in terms of property taxes that you had. If you gave money to charity, especially if you gave a lot, you definitely want to have a summary from the organization that you gave the money to in terms of how much you received, what those items are, kind of a line by line summary of that, because if you ever get audited, the IRS, and I have had experience with this, the IRS is going to want to get a summary of what those items were, get an understanding from the organization that you did give those items. So again, if you've given large contributions of items, you definitely want to have that. If it is a situation where you've given cash donations, or you've used your debit card or credit card to make a donation to an organization, you're going to want to provide that as well, because that may be something that we can take as a tax deduction. Medical expenses, there's a formula that goes into it, but if you have had a lot of out-of-pocket expenses when it comes to medical expenses, I would say starting at like, I don't know, $15,000-$20,000 of out-of-pocket expenses, definitely want to take a look at that. It's a situation where there may be deductions that are involved with that, so I definitely want to get that information. Child care expenses. So typically the organization that you take your child to have child care, they're going to understand that someone like me is going to need their name, their tax ID number, their location, in order to take that deduction. Obviously, the most important thing, a summary of how much was given to that organization for the year for the child care. So we definitely want to get that. If you are either in school or paying for someone in school, there's tuition. If you have gotten out of school, there's also student loan interest information that we want to get. So that's very helpful in that process. If you're self-employed, if you've given to like a retirement account of some sort, I want to get a summary of what that is. Typically, the brokerage firm that you're working with, they're going to be able to provide documentation that reflects how much you have given to that entity in terms of retirement planning, and then that way we can reflect that on the return. And then when it comes to business owner, when it comes to real estate owners, obviously you're going to have an understanding, whether it's bank statements, whether it's 1099s, of how much you received in terms of the income. But the other important piece is how much you paid in expenses. And this is where it gets really important, because a lot of times people just kind of go through the motions of running those, running the business or running the real estate. And, there are situations where people just don't pay attention to the expenses. But that's critically important because there are tax benefits to that. So what I recommend to people is, if you can have an exclusive account that reflects the expenses that you have had. If not, then you're going to have like credit card statements, both personal and business. I recognize, and the IRS recognizes that sometimes there are business expenses that are paid on personal credit cards or personal debit statements, or paid in cash. You want to have the receipts that reflect those. And then making sure that if you need, you can go through email, you can go through all sorts of like calendars that may be able to help you remember what you paid out of pocket for different things. And that's critically important because, again, that gets you the tax deduction that you may be entitled to. And take the time, do the work. It is frustrating. It can be annoying. I've gone through it enough to recognize that people don't necessarily feel comfortable or even want to do that, but there is an ultimate tax advantage. So when you come to someone like me and they say, hey, I want you to try to do the best that you can in terms of making me as tax efficient as possible, that's when I kind of put the burden back on you to say, hey, I need the expenses that you've had during the course of the year. Obviously, I haven't been with you during the course of the year, so I don't know what you have paid out. And that's where that documentation, one, helps for reducing your tax liability, but then two, if it is a situation where the IRS audits you, then you've got the documentation already. So I kind of package my audits, if there ever was an audit, with the tax preparation process and getting those documents. So you having those documents, you bringing those documents, has like that twofold effect of preparing for the taxes, but then also if there's an audit of some sort, you can just present that to the IRS or to the state. But that kind of is a good basic overview of the documents that I would need. Obviously, for more complicated returns, there would be more documentation, but I think that gives a good summary. Obviously, if you've got more questions, by all means, you can reach out and give me a buzz. But until then, talk to you soon. Bye.